First of all, you don't know me.
We're all about that high school drama girl, all about them high school queens. We'll take you for a ride in our comic girl, cheering for the right team. Drama queens, smart girl, rough girl, fashion but you're tough girl. You could sit with us, girl. Drama queens, drama queens, drama queens, drama queens, drama queens.
All right. Wow. Season 3, episode 15. Just watch the fireworks.
Wow, that
was a lot of setup, but with some good stuff, like really good at building anticipation this episode.
I just got so excited to realize it was the time capsule, which in the momentary joy of, I know what episode this is, then really turned out to shit all over everybody.
Yeah. We were pumped for a hot second.
We were so excited, and then we realized, like, oh, right, a lot of terrible things were said. Y'all, the time capsule is mysteriously opened and revealed to the whole school, causes a whole lot of drama. A lot of people's pain points get pushed on. Miles and Lucas try to help out a friend who they've lost touch with in the past year. This is where we start to reconnect with Jimmy Edwards. Peyton and Haley's benefit concert hits the stage with, honestly, iconic then, iconic now. A guest appearance by Jack's Mannequin, and Fall Out Boy is back.
Woohoo!
Woo.
Yeah. I mean,
it's a whole lot happening.
I like this
Well, how
episode.
about let's start with the time capsule, because my favorite part of all of that was Whitey going with the Principal Turner to look at the wall, and he's like looking at the plaque like everything's fine, nobody popped this out of the wall. Whitey pulls a poster back and the pillar is like made of paper.
Yeah, the school's held up by paper mache, actually.
That was ridiculous.
Oh, I don't know who in the art department thought that was going to be a great idea. Like, guys, we'll just punch a hole in it. It's paper.
We'll just put a column right here and it'll look like a real column, but this one will be made of newspaper and glue.
Also, you can't hollow out like how many of these time capsules do they have for every single also and what about the fact that isn't that a senior class project? How random is it that it's what is it, juniors? We're juniors class time capsule? Wouldn't that be a senior thing?
That is, okay, so that's something that has always bothered me about our show, is that it's one grade. Like, when I was growing up, starting in 6th grade, I hung out with 8th graders because I was like looking to be cool. Yeah. Yeah. And then when I got into high school, I was like, peace, bitches. I'm hanging out with the upperclassmen. And then by the time we were upperclassmen, I had a younger brother who was a sophomore and was like friends with all these younger kids. So the fact that our show is just like so insular is weird. There should have been seniors. There should have been people like kicking the Scott brothers' asses because they're like, oh, you think you're varsity? We're varsity. You know?
It was all about the grades. There was something about who you were hanging out with, if they were younger, the same, or older. There was a whole class system within the high school that you're right. We never addressed that hierarchy.
Yeah, I remember when I started doing theater, how cool it was as a freshman to be like, ooh, I've got to go to Joann Fabrics with the juniors who have their driver's licenses to get more material for our costumes. Like, it felt so cool.
That's exactly it. That's exactly it.
Or you'd have to go to Michael's to get like more poster board and black paint.
Girl. Listen, like, you gotta make friends with someone with a license. That's what you do.
That's right. That's right.
I've definitely journaled about that. Like, oh my God, I got a ride from like whoever. But we are seniors this year, you know?
Yeah.
That gets confusing on our show because it's just all kind of mush. But we've come back from summer break. You threw that beach party. We're seniors and...
Oh, are we seniors now?
Yes.
I mean, I guess.
Because seasons 1 and 2 were junior year. Okay. And seasons 3 and 4 were senior year. And the way that they explained
why the time capsule is seniors.
Yeah. And because basketball, you know, I don't know if it happens in fall or spring. I should know.
It's a winter sport.
Probably spring, right?
Winter.
I don't know.
Winter.
Yeah, March
winter
Madness,
sport.
though? Okay, fine. That goes through playoffs. You're right. So it's fall semester that we play basketball. And that was also how they budgeted our show. Because they'd have to rent gyms one year and then not rent them the next year. And it was how they kind of made up for the budgets.
Yeah.
Weird.
Yeah.
It's all, but wait a second. See, that's another thing about our show that confuses me sometimes is that it takes place over the course of 2 years for our watching audience at home.
Mm-hmm.
But it never occurred to me that Lucas Scott dated Brooke Davis at the beginning of senior year. And by the end of senior year is all like kissing up on Peyton and doing the all-night graduation party together.
Yep.
When we filmed it, it was 2 separate years, but...
Well, yeah. And that
Wow.
and it aired in 2 separate years. So that's really how they drew out so much drama for the audience. But it was also how they managed to avoid the college years with us. Like they wanted all of us to be able to drive from the beginning.
Word.
So we had to have driver's licenses. We had to be 16. So they knew they'd only have 2 years of high school. And they figured they could get 4 years of production before graduation if every season was a semester. I love that I'm doing air quotes to you guys and no one at home can see me.
Hey, does Haley
everything
ever
is
drive?
fine.
Does Haley ever drive?
Haley, I'm sure. Yes, I know I've driven.
Like as an
on that show.
adult, I remember you driving.
Yeah.
But in the show yet? Has Haley driven a car?
I haven't seen it. Does Haley even have a car? We haven't seen Haley with a car. Does she and
No.
Nathan share one?
You and
No.
Nathan share that car. And remember, he
But
loses
then once
it
we
in the
split
poker
up,
game.
Who gets the car?
Girl, are you walking
Do I drive you
everywhere?
everywhere?
I think I'm like hiring Brooke's pre-Uber
Do you
service
not I?
taxi. What's it? Do you not I? That's what I'm doing. I'm hiring Brooke's service. I like that they split it up because you know why? It feels like that when you're in high school. It doesn't just feel like, to us, a year now, somebody says, this is my 1 year goal. I'm like, good luck. You need 5 for that. It's like 5 years is nothing. 1 year, oh yeah, it's reasonable. But God, when you're in high school, it's all so long. It takes forever. So I don't mind it.
I read an article about that. It talks about why summer feels like is so long when you're a kid. It's because if you've only been alive for 10 years, like, that's a huge chunk of your life. But now a year is 1/40th of my life. Like big whoop. Back in high school, it was 1/15th. Fractionally, it's a bigger deal.
I love that you said that because I was about to be like, well, if you consider fractions, and then you were like, I read this article. I'm like, yes.
Leave it to you.
Because that's what it is.
Well, so here's the other thing about school is that you're kind of a narcissist all through your childhood and in your teenage years. You big hero energy because it hasn't necessarily occurred to you that there are people outside of your bubble. And that's a skill set that's really important to learn as you evolve. But when you're a teenager, it's really easy just to kind of be the hero of your own story. So this idea that there are Jimmy Edwards out there and there are people out there who you're not even considering and that you could be a bad guy in their narrative is something that's really important because you're the bad guy in somebody's story. And so it's about identifying, where we can be better.
I also think it's really interesting. Years ago, I read, and I kept it. Like I thought the issue was so powerful. Nat Geo did a whole magazine issue on the teenage brain. And it was an article I read online that then prompted me to go and get the magazine that talked about how where you are in the actual development of your brain at 16. Like as adults, even for us in our 20s, looking back at high school, going, God, why did it feel like that was the whole world? It is. Your brain understands your school and your community that is immediately around you. It can only process about that much space and that many humans as the world. As adults, and especially now, thanks to the way we're also digitally connected, we're more globally connected than ever. We have a bigger perspective than ever. But if you think about especially pre-social media, high school feels like it can break you because it's your whole universe. And when I think about all the dumb shit we did,
oh my God,
meaning specifically the three of us, not just all our friends at home who are probably nodding along, when we were in our early 20s, like your brain is not done developing till you are 26 years old. You're still a kid at 22. So when you think about how much further from being fully developed you are at 16, it means that, as this issue posits, that when you have a big wound, or you're ostracized or left out or bullied, or even you hurt someone and you feel like you could just die because you're so ashamed, it's so consequential. It's like your whole world is turning upside down. It's harder to measure any kind of injury as the receiver or the perpetrator as a teen, because you don't really have fractionally anything to hold it up against. And it really was illuminating for me about the effects. Like, we see all the data on the effects of bullying. We see all of the testimonials about what these young kids are going through. And it really, there was something about that science that helped me understand how it feels.
Yeah.
So I wonder about like a Jimmy Edwards, and that character feels like everybody hates him. And so he hates everybody. And it's like global to him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Heartbreaking.
Well, back then we didn't have the tools for you to reach out to people in other communities. Like right now, Jimmy Edwards could go on Twitter. He could go on Instagram and be like, I'm into Marvel movies. Who else likes what I like? And find community that way. And we didn't have those tools, man. If you didn't go to camp, do you know what I mean? Like, camp was how I met people that didn't go to my high school. And I felt special because I got to go to those things. But for the kid that, just woke up and went to school and came home and didn't meet outside circles, it gets claustrophobic, especially if you've grown up in the same town your whole life. You're just like, I've known you since you were eating your own boogers. You're awful. You've always been awful. I can't wait to get out of here.
Yeah. And even with all that access that kids have now to be able to find a community that they get on with, there's still a lot of kids who are just suffering from issues at home. But, if somebody's being a bully, somebody's bullying them. And that's something my mom always taught me when I was little. And it was hard to watch that. It was hard to watch Jimmy Edwards acknowledging, like, you guys just left me in the dust. And he's right. It's a two-way street, but also not everybody has the capability or the understanding to be able to reach out. Sometimes you have to start. You have to pick up the phone and make the first phone call. And, you just never quite know what's going on in somebody's life. Home life is so different than what it is when we walk outside of our four walls.
Well, it's also, situationally here, it's not like Lucas and Mouth and the other guys went and they were hanging out with a parallel social group that was also like still kind of underdog. They started hanging out with all the popular villain kids, right?
Yeah.
And it was all of them, Now Skills is kissing a cheerleader, and you've got Lucas hooking up with multiple cheerleaders, and Haley married the captain of the basketball team. Like, what is going on?
Yeah.
Well, and I think something that's real interesting to your point is it can be, even as adults, really easy to be entrenched in whatever your silo is and to make assumptions about everyone else. And we saw it with Lucas when he goes and checks in with Faith a couple episodes ago. And she is like, Brooke Davis is just a, junior, whatever the mean cheerleader, Meredith Maloney, whatever. And Lucas is like, no, but she's not. Like, I'm telling you, she's not. She's different than we thought. I know this person's heart now. I know her motivations. And that's what I think is always so powerful. People talk about how you can other someone until you know someone like them. They talked about, even when we think about the way kids used to be siloed pre-social media, like, imagine you're the one gay kid in like small town Ohio and you have no one to talk to. That's why everybody moved to New York when they turned 18.
Literally.
People ran, and you got these like cultural sort of bastions of art and theater and all these things because of the migration that resulted from people trying to escape being ostracized. And, when
You can feel real lonely in a big city too, though.
Totally. Well, of course. But that's what I'm kind of getting at is when there's no one around who knows you, it can be hard for you.
Yeah.
But on the other end of that information, again, like as we've pursued more equity and justice in our country, the data, I love an article. Years ago when we were doing the fight over marriage equality, there was a great article that talked about how the minute a person knows one gay person, whether it's a gay man or a woman who identifies as a lesbian or whatever, their opinions change about equality. Because someone, their family, their spouse, you love them, you want them to be able to be as happy and protected as you are. You look
or
at
as
your friend
miserable as
Joe.
you are. Yeah, I remember hearing
You're like,
that.
join the club.
Yeah, literally. I remember that as a teenager hit me so hard when someone was like, everyone should be able to get married so they can all be as miserable as I am. And I was like, oh my God.
Genius. See, and that's where the comedy cuts in. But it's like, if we could just get to know each other a little bit.
Yeah, it makes a huge difference.
It makes
really
such
does.
a difference in the way we care about each other. And I think that's what really makes it hard to watch this episode now is you look at Jimmy and you go, oh God, all these people have managed to break a barrier and get to know each other. Like you've got Brooke Davis on a time capsule talking about how she is so sure she's going to be married to Marvin McFadden and he's going to be a senator.
Right.
Like it's a two-way street of this sort of boundary breaking. And Jimmy's the one kid who didn't cross the bridge. He didn't go with everyone. And he's so heartbroken. And it's so common that you see young boys cover their heartbreak with rage.
Yeah.
Because we don't teach them that it's okay to feel any of their other feelings. And I don't know, there's something about watching this as an adult that like, it breaks me in a way that is deeper than it was when we did this, in real time in 2006.
Joy, I don't know, you and I have older kids.
Yeah.
Gus's school is in the high school. The high school and the middle school are connected. And so
Yeah, Maria's too.
I wanted to think that it was different now than it was when we were kids. And like everyone was using slurs and just like being really abrasive and hurtful with language. Like the 90s were a time. You guys.
Yeah.
The 90s were rough.
We all said words that now we wouldn't dare utter, and you go back and you see movies from that time and you're like, oh my God, like what was everyone saying? This is crazy talk. And having a kid that comes home and is like, oh no, all that language is still alive and well, and I'm the psycho mom that's like calling other parents like, did you hear this? You need to talk to, yeah, I guess I thought it was different now because we've had so many like anti-bullying campaigns and,
I think human nature is human nature. I just think this is who we are as a species and what, our job as parents is as we raise the next generation and then they raise the next generation and all, is to start passing on more and more kindness, more and more civilized behavior. The more that we can pass that on. I don't think it's as much as it's clearly not as much as it was in the 90s. I mean, I think if we just look around us in media, we can see that things have changed. But there is still bullying. There's still, I know Maria's had her fair share of kids picking on her and people, making fun of her about random things. Kids will always find something to make fun of you about, no matter what. They just want to feel better about themselves by putting somebody else down. So you just got to keep, I've always taught her the same thing my mom taught me, and which I just said before, and then just go find the kid who looks lonely. If you feel left out, go find somebody else who looks left out and sit next to them and have lunch with them and be nice to them, because it's not all about you. And going back to what you were saying about everybody being a narcissist when you're a kid and you're kind of like, you're supposed to be coming out of that middle school, high school, you start to be learning about other people, which should segue me into the Brooke using that amazing video into, the horrifying video and turning it into something amazing with the charitable aspect, and how I love that what our show did so well was always adding in charity to everything. I'm going to get there, but the first thing I want to say.
You just dropped the breadcrumbs. We're on the path.
Over there. Yeah. I'm still going over here.
Just post it and continue.
It's on the shelf. Is that we are, young narcissists, and you are supposed to be growing out of that as a kid. And that's what having those friendships are supposed to do with you. And that's what those opportunities with kids bullying you, it's supposed to be an opportunity for you to look at that person with compassion and know that something bad is going on in their life, to put them in the position where they need to put you down in order to feel better about themselves. So continually, you know, renewing your mind in understanding other people, putting yourself out there, that it's not all about you. Sometimes somebody else needs you in a day. When you go to school, it's a boring day, but maybe there's one person who needs what you have to offer. So instead of looking around waiting for everybody to serve you and do something for you, what can you do to, you know, so ask not what you can do for
But what you can do for your middle school.
That's right. Anyway, so, but yes, I love that Brooke took that terrifying moment and mortifying. I mean, so many people would have just crawled under a rock, and so many girls have been so hurt by things like that. Just awfully hurt by things like that, and that she took the power back. Wow.
Yeah, I mean, it's dark.
It's like child pornography.
That's what I was going to say. Like it's child porn. Like, she's a 16-year-old girl. You know, it's not appropriate. I think that's where some of the lines blur, because we were in our 20s as actors, and, you know, there's some sort of concessions made for those things. To your point, I love that she turns it into a positive. I love that she's like, this super shitty thing happened to me and we're going to do something great about it. I love that. Like, that is so indicative of Brooke's spirit to me. And I also think, as, you know, adult women looking back, we can be like, whoa, that was super inappropriate that a bunch of grown-ups wrote that someone put a naked teenage girl on the internet. Okay.
But by the way, like, great story. One thing our show failed at is follow-up, right? Because we do all these explosive things and we don't follow it up. How great would it have been if Brooke Davis's dad sued the school system for his daughter being child pornography?
Yes.
Well, and by the way, because part of the disservice, I think, is that we made it no big deal. So then when it happens to girls, people go, it's not a big deal. Come on, who cares?
Brooke Davis handled it. It was fine.
Whatever. It does set this example that you shouldn't feel so violated. It'll be fine. Crack a joke. But what I will say, for a little behind the scenes tea, obviously we didn't trust the people who made our show in the editing room. And when we did the episode, you know, they put each of us in this little, like, sort of black box, and we recorded our confessionals very, like, MTV, you know, real world style. And I do the script. I'm sitting there in this cute little blouse, and then I take the blouse off and I'm in this bra, and they had to find a bra that hooked in the front. And they were trying to sell me on, well, obviously we're going to cover it up. So, like, we want to shoot it so that you unhook your bra and flash, and, like, you'll just have pasties over your boobs. And obviously we'll airbrush it out. And I was like, you guys, I don't trust you. So we drew out the, like, I'm sitting there holding the front and being like, well, you know, in Aliens, you might have 8 eyes, which means, and I'm like, I keep pretending to unhook it. And then when it was time to actually unhook it, you guys, I put on a grandma-sized strapless bra. It was so big and ugly. And I was like, okay, hold on. And I just, like, put it on under the bra. And then I was like, let's shoot it. And they all were like, well, we can't possibly work around this. And I was like, figure it out. And you can see the, like, top edges of the strapless really badly airbrushed on the sides of the breast cancer thing that goes across my chest. And I mean, my face is hot. I feel so vindicated by it. I love it so much because I know I f***ed them up, and I'm really proud that I made sure that some creepy person who shan't be named didn't get to look at my boobs, even with pasties over my nipples. I was like, screw you. It's not happening.
Guys, when I visited the writer's office, it was either season 3 or season 4, because I went with Daniil. There was, like, they were having a concert in the writer's office in LA, and we were out there doing press for something. Maybe it was like Teen Choice Awards or something dumb. Not dumb, something awesome. I just never won one, so fine, you guys are done.
You're like, oh, is that one of my little triggers right there? There it is.
God, sometimes those pop up. So anyway, we're, like, out in LA. I visited the writer's room one time in the entirety of my run on the show. And when I got there, There was a dartboard with one actor's face on it. And then there were screen grab, like printouts of others of us from like dailies and like shots from the show in our underwear and stuff like that. And
What?
Joy.
Oh, yeah.
And I remember being like, what is that? And it's like Polaroids from wardrobe fittings. Like,
We had all of that.
Fuck that.
And by the way, you know
Joy,
all that
it
stuff's
was
online.
so creepy. And you guys, it was not until I went to work on White Collar and I was in a van with all the writers. And I was just kind of like, right now, like we are right now, just kind of telling it with like a, oh my God, and you guys won't believe this, and laughing about it. That they like stopped me and they were like, honey, you're so young and we have to interrupt you. This is fucked up. And I was like, what? What are you talking about? They're like, we've never heard of anything like that before. That's insane. But yeah, but Sophia, had you done that in the pasties, there would have been a screen grab of you in the pasties on somebody's
100%
wall.
on somebody's wall. And they would have like drawn on the pasties, but my like bare chest would have been out for the world to see. And I knew not to trust them. And it's funny when you talk about our Polaroids. Oh, it makes me so angry. Not only because we had some, I'm not going to say fans. Our fans are dope. The people who got past the line of being fans, who had no boundaries. I don't know what to call them other than inappropriate, but you know, there were some people who did those email hacks of Carol's email.
Yes.
And a lot of our fitting photos, including a lot of photos, things that were being emailed back and forth.
Oh,
between
my
North
email
Carolina.
got hacked.
Remember?
My sonogram photo was released
What?
when I was pregnant.
Yeah, I remember that. And they were, they
it's
were doing all that
horrifying.
thing, emailing each of us as each other, but they were like weird Gmail accounts. Like,
Yeah.
I remember Lisa Goldstein one day coming into work being like, hey, I got your email about those photos, but like, I can't attach enough to the, it keeps saying it can't send the file. And I was like, what are you talking about?
Wait,
And we
hold
looked.
on a second. This happened to me after I left the show. When I
Yes,
got pregnant
Hilarie.
with Gus, I got hacked. Was that all part of the same thing?
I'm
all
sure
the same
it
thing.
was.
And I mean, it was very disturbing. Like,
Yeah, it was
like,
very upsetting.
Like photos of like Austin's niece and nephew at bath time got put on the internet. Like things that were so inappropriate. And a lot of our fitting photos, a lot of us in our underwear wound up online. And there's one photo. All of that made me enraged. I'm enraged thinking about it now.
I
It's such
feel
a
like our
violation of
characters
privacy.
with the time capsule being released
No,
right
it's-
now, because I'm hearing
it
this
is.
for the first
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
Well, and by the way, maybe because we made no big deal of the time capsule, people thought that we wouldn't be upset about this or feel violated by this, even though it's deeply violating. And the one bright spot in this dark story is that there is a photo. I had to do this hilariously stupid episode in like all these costumes, Hilarie, after
Yeah,
you
you
left.
did.
And one was like a full like lederhosen thing. And obviously being in it, like it's such a corset. And I swear to you, this thing like pushed my tits up to my collarbones.
Yeah.
And I took a photo for Carol, like holding my boobs, making this face that was just like, bleh, like you think this is great? Because I knew who was going to see it back
Yeah.
in LA. And I was just like, F you, I know what you're doing.
Yeah.
And so many people have shared that photo and been like, this really seems out of character for Sophia. Why is she standing like this? And I'm like, yeah, because I'm trolling a pervert.
I'm trolling a pervert.
No one was supposed to see it except the pervert being trolled. So now everyone is a pervert. But yeah, man, I guess long story longer is I just don't like other people having any non-consensual images of any of us. I think it's gross.
Yeah.
Well, if you create something like the time capsule or like our photos or maybe our private emails where you think it's going to be between you and one or two other people, it is real shitty when they get released into the wild. And when I left the show and started seeing Jeffrey, someone broke into my email and took a picture of him and I and released it. And then he got an email from someone that was like, she's leaking photos of the two of you because she's using you for attention or whatever.
Oh.
Yeah. And I was really hurt by it because we were new and I was really trying to convince him. I'm like, no, I was hacked. So you guys have validated a 13-year-old wound.
Oh, Hillary,
my
it goes
gosh.
so deep dark. The emails that started coming in were so insane. And then they started creating, like, by the way, I don't have any version of my name without my middle name, without middle name numbers. every version of my name at Gmail is taken.
Wow.
As is yours, as is Joy's.
Yeah.
And quote unquote fans, I will call them perpetrators, would figure out how to get people's emails. I think once they were able to break into
Our work email.
one of the writers or whatever, they got everybody's. And so they would do this, and it was really sad, like, you know, to get pictures, like you said, of the two of you as a new couple, of like me and my then partner on vacation with like kids who were like naked running around in the ocean, because those are sweet photos for your family to have, but not for strangers to have. Like,
weird.
There has to be a line. Like, Joy, when you reminded me of what happened when you were pregnant with Maria, it sends such a rage through me. Like, I can't calm down about it. It's so nobody's fucking business.
Really, really upsetting.
I remember coming to work.
Also, 'cause it was my first pregnancy.
Your baby.
It was like so new and exciting, and I was young, and like, yeah, it was just a really precious, private time in my life. And
you deserve to have that privacy.
My sonogram, like people could see the inside of my belly. Like, it just felt like such a violation. It was awful.
I'm sorry. That
I'm
sucks.
so sorry.
Yeah, but you know what? Compared to some of the other things that people have had to deal with, that's really nothing.
Well, for a kid like Jimmy Edwards that doesn't have coping mechanisms and like doesn't have a support group, you know, like you could come to people and be like, this sucks. What do I do?
We got to at least be together.
Someone like Jimmy just has a target on his back now.
And especially because what you do believe, just as you sharing something like that with your family, or, you know, Hilarie, to your point about you're actually a kid who kept journals. Like, I wish I had. And I think I never did because I was always so afraid someone was going to read them. And this idea that the time capsule is supposed to be kind of like a journal, like it's going to be private. The way that some people vented, Nathan vented about Haley and then was mortified. Jimmy is in such this dark place, feeling abandoned, and he thinks it's a secret. And to have your secrecy and your privacy taken away from you, you know, in real life or on screen is so harmful. And I mean, you see him, like, he gets attacked, he gets beat up. It's like
on
trauma
any other
on trauma.
day, if that had not been released, you know, he had the chance in private to act like somebody he wanted to be, or be this guy he thought he was going to try and, you know, it was like he was putting on a personality for that video, and you could see it. Even when he was lighting up his cigarette, it was like he's trying to be somebody. He doesn't quite know who or where he is yet, but he's on his way, and he's trying on all these things. And if you can do that within the space of privacy and control, that's fine. But to have that exposed, it's just such a deep, vulnerable cut. It's your identity. It's who you're trying to figure out who you are.
Yeah.
It's just it's so awful. And he probably would have been fine.
Yeah, that's the thing. I hung out with a lot of Jimmy Edwards in high school, and I loved them.
They find their way.
I liked the dark, you know?
Yeah.
And they were angry. And I remember as a kid being like, you guys are crazy, you know?
Yeah.
And then we'd go to poetry slams together, and they would read their poetry, and it was lovely. And now they either like work for the government, or, you know, like they're like RNs, you know, like they all have these like very adult functional jobs and lovely lives. And they've come out of it. But those moments of deep humiliation, I think, are the situations that make or break a person. Because some people are able to crawl out of that, and other people aren't. Humiliation for teenage boys is probably the least understood emotion. Because anger, we can figure out. You know, sadness, your girlfriend dumps you. Okay, we can figure that out. But humiliation, there's something very specific about that we don't necessarily talk about the coping mechanisms for boys, you know?
Yeah.
Brooke Davis handled it, right? Like, this cute girl is like, I'm going to turn it into a thing.
And I love that, but I will say women are told to handle it.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
suck it up.
Like, and they're just like, oh, get over it. You're being too sensitive. And what makes me sad for our boys is that essentially the only emotion we reward from boys is toughness, and toughness is expressed in anger. So we teach boys to channel all their feelings into anger to be respected.
But anger and loneliness really go hand in hand.
Yeah.
Yes. But it's so detrimental. And then, we look around as a society and like, I don't know if I'm supposed to say trigger warning or what the thing is to bring up prior to this, but I think that's so connected to why we look around and we go, well, gee, why is it that, 1 in 4 girls has been assaulted, sexually assaulted by the age of 22?
Yeah,
and it's like,
that's right.
Well, because we don't give boys any way to be in the world except angry. And what is the expression of anger? It's violence. And I know that is a bit of an oversimplification to many societal issues we have, but what I find myself so drawn toward as an adult is healthy expressions of emotion where we give every person, whether it's a group of us as women or our male friends or anyone, the opportunity to experience the sliding scale of their emotions from what we have societally deemed as traditionally masculine to traditionally feminine. And to be like, where do you find your sensitivity? Where do you find your empathy? Where do you find your art? What is it that makes you angry? What does that fuel rather than destroy?
And where's a healthy place to express it? Because
each of those things.
I don't think that anger is meant to just be suppressed and pushed down.
No, anger's a great
then
emotion.
it turns into
It's
bomb.
a great, important emotion. It informs you of so much. It's just what you're doing with your anger that makes the difference.
Yeah.
And you're right. A lot of people don't have a space to put it and they don't know where to put it.
Have you ever met boys that watched our show? I'm still baffled when I meet grown men that are like, I watched your whole show. I watched the whole series and I used to cry all the time.
I love that.
It's so, I mean, I don't know if it makes me feel like a dinosaur that I'm like, a boy watched our show. Like, gender norms. But
I think they liked it. I don't know. I mean, go ahead.
my husband loves a show that will let him cry.
Yeah.
And my son loves to cry. Like,
I think there were a lot of boys whose sisters watched the show or girlfriends in college. And so they kind of had the excuse, like the social excuse. Like, oh, yeah, well, my girlfriend watches it. But they secretly loved it.
I mean, you guys,
They loved it.
I loved even when our show, when it was on and, boys our age would be like, I always would remember like the night at the bar where the guy would be like, my girlfriend loves your show. Like, and 3 hours later, he's 3 drinks deep and he's like, and then when Brooke Davis found out she couldn't get pregnant, man, that really fucked me up. And they're like crying at the bar. And I'm like, this is great. I love this. There
was like a foreign military. I can't remember what country it was, but I remember getting all these letters from some like foreign military where they're like, we're all watching this show on base.
Yeah.
And like their English was very broken, but they were like, but we are very invested in these love stories.
Yeah.
It's like,
well, that was one of the coolest
cool.
things. Bopping around on like different USO tours, like all over bases in Turkey and Germany. And, even the stuff we did with the USO guys closer to home in Wilmington.
Yeah.
Like we were one of the, 8 shows on the Armed Forces Network. And
really? We were on the Armed Forces Network?
Really?
Yeah, you guys, we were on AFN forever. I don't know if we still are, but I loved when we'd get those, once we all got on Twitter and stuff, we'd get videos like from guys on base, like making up songs on their guitars about our show. And I was like, I really think this is great.
Cute. Joy's like, wait a second, hold on.
Wait a minute.
Wait a minute.
Moral of the story
Hello,
is
boys.
we like boys who are in touch with their emotions. All of them.
Yeah. Yeah.
We like healthy men.
Well, Lucas and Nathan in this episode could have gotten into a fight about the Dan of it all, because we kick off the episode with Lucas, talking Dan.
Yeah.
And instead they get into this hellacious fight as teammates to, break up this attack on Jimmy Edwards. That fight was bananas.
That was crazy. Who were those grown-ass men who they brought? Like, those were like 30-year-old dudes
Those were stunt guys.
The guys. That was insane.
Yeah, for sure. Those were supposed to be the seniors?
Yeah, these aren't high school boys. Get out of here.
How big is this school? I've never seen those kids before. No, and Rachel's got her pepper spray.
I loved that. Danielle coming in with the pepper spray.
I thought it was hairspray.
You did?
Yeah, I totally thought she like grabbed it off the countertop in the back and was like,
Which, by the way, if you've ever shot pepper spray, you know it comes out as this really nasty, like, stream, and it's gross.
Yeah.
They were definitely using, like, a water, like an Evian spray.
They painted an Evian black. Yeah, for sure.
Also, what I learned the hard way, I remember first getting pepper spray and being like, well, I got to know, like, how far does it go when I need to use it? No one warns you that, like, yes, it shoots forward, but it also creates a cloud.
A mist.
So it definitely chokes you too.
Oh, no.
Lightly.
Oh, no.
I was like burning all over and just like hacking, coughing. I was like, cool. Okay.
When did you have to use pepper spray?
Just for fun.
When I first got like my first pepper spray, I was like, I'm going to shoot this out into the distance, like in the
so you could test
driveway.
it.
Yeah, I wanted to test it. I just like wanted to know what I was
Oh,
in
you
the
did it
shopper.
outside with the wind, too?
I just was like outside. Y'all, it did not end well for me.
Yeah, that's a rough.
Check the wind before you check your pepper spray, folks.
Check the
My
wind.
my sister has 2 boys, and one of them sprayed the other one in the face with bear spray.
Bear spray?
No.
It was
Do you have to go to the
crazy
hospital?
town. Oh yeah, for sure. It was a whole thing. I mean, my daughter's standing here. She's got her mouth wide open. She's like, no way. Yeah, Nathan sprayed Dylan.
Yeah, so wait, the pepper spray only hit the wrestlers in our scene, but didn't get Nathan, didn't get Lucas, didn't get
Jimmy.
Matt,
Right.
didn't get Jimmy.
That's because it was Evian.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
That's 'cause it was
it's
Evian.
awful.
Well, whoever decided to punch the hole in the column paper wall is also the person that created the mace container.
Exactly.
Oh, man.
I mean, I like Rachel's interactions in this episode because they are very on brand. And I like that she searches Jimmy out. But there's also kind of a lesson in that where, you know, if we're all trying to act too cool and cavalier, what Rachel's saying is like, you know.
Oh, it wasn't for you.
Yeah. No, I wasn't here to protect you. Had she just let him think that,
Yeah.
Yeah.
he could have gone home and like, you know, not freaked out.
Yeah, I wondered why. And part of me thought when she said that, I thought, okay, what's the mask they're giving her? Why doesn't she want to admit that she doesn't like to see people get hurt? And what's the purpose of her saying this to him? And then obviously we think about how far he's meant to be pushed for the next episode. So, but it definitely did stick out to me a little bit. And maybe it's just because I know Danielle is like the most caring human.
God.
And so I'm like, I don't buy it. She's too nice. But yeah, it was so flippant and like honest. And then she goes and gives that
But it
very
wasn't
sort of
honest.
cutting.
It wasn't honest.
No, but she said it. Sorry, you're right. Not honest. Very frank. Like she spoke to him very frankly.
Yeah, she was
Kinda
trying to
like-
be a cool girl.
Yeah. And I was like, but why? Especially then when she goes and says what she says to Mel.
Like she really had a chip on her shoulder about
Yeah,
this.
It's very like John Hughes. Like going back with Gus and watching Breakfast Club, it does not hold up. The 12-year-old audience is like, these people are disgusting. Right? And I thought for sure he was going to love Judd Apatow, or not Judd Apatow, Judd
Nelson.
Judd Nelson. Very different Judd. I really thought he would think like, oh, that guy's cool. And Gus was repulsed, which I hadn't seen the movie in, 15, 20 years. So I'd forgotten. It is repulsive. And Rachel is kind of behaving like that. She's behaving like this kind of cartoony 1980s. I'm going to say like the cool thing to say. And the lesson is that when you think you're being cool, you could be incredibly damaging. She's being really damaging here without knowing it.
It was in the context of that speech with Mouth, it felt like she was trying to put him in his place or keep him in his place or something, which that just is what felt strange about it. Like, because she, on the heels of that, goes right to Mouth and she's like, listen, he's either going to sink or swim, and it's not up to you to save him. You know, you guys all graduated to hang out with the popular crowd, the elite girls, as we heard, the elite girls. So, but, you know,
if someone doesn't
he
make
didn't,
us
and
satin
there's-
jackets with elite girls on it.
Oh my God.
Pink ladies.
You know what? I like what you're saying there, Joy. And it's interesting because it jogs my sense memory of scenes that Danielle and I have later when Brooke finds out that Rachel used to be, you know, if we're categorizing these kids, Rachel used to be kind of a Jimmy Edwards. And she, you know, by the way, we all had issues with the storyline. We'll get to it when we get to it. But she, you know, for better or worse, transformed herself to be, you know, quote unquote, her name, an elite girl. And in a way, what I realize now, only because I have the experience of having done the material with her, is that she's beginning to foreshadow that she was willing to cut out her whole life to be popular.
Yeah, that's great. That's a great point.
That she's like, suck it up. This is what it is, and you got to do the work. And it's kind of like, whoa, what is that? There's darkness there, and it feels strange. And I'm wondering if that's what this was meant to be, like a foreshadowing of learning that Rachel Gattina wasn't always, you know, the girl we've met in Tree Hill.
It came off as jealous to me, like that she was being territorial of Mouth. Because if Nathan and Haley are at this club night together and Brooke and Peyton are being super cute and Lucas and Mouth are having this night with their old buddy, nobody's talking to Rachel, you know? And she's just like peed all over Mouth's leg in the last couple episodes.
It's true.
It's weird when you see jealousy out of someone that you wouldn't expect, where you're like, oh, I thought you had the whole world by the tail. Why are you being a weirdo?
It is also what you were saying, Soph, about her feeling like I did the work. That's also very human nature, right? Like if we feel like we've done the work, we've been able to fight through whatever we had to fight through in order to get to from point A to point B. So if I can do it, you can do it, and there's no reason you can't. And that also creates a divide. It's discompassionate. It creates loneliness. It creates anger and jealousy and frustration because there's always going to be another level that you're trying to get to and you're having difficulty, but somebody else has reached that level and they're looking at you saying you should be able to do it. So there's a constant bad cycle that comes from that kind of mindset.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's one of the things you have capability, you know, whether it's the tools or the capabilities, I suppose, to do as an adult is to say, oh, wow, I can see what's going on with you. And I can also see my reaction to it.
Yeah.
And see what triggers me or where my expectations lie. And at 16 or 17 years old, like, you can't do that.
No, you can't understand. Everybody goes at their own pace.
No. Somebody pushes your buttons then and you're just like, what are you doing?
And there's no parents to pick us up. Right? Like, do you remember like the drives home where you'd be like, and this happened, and this happened, and this happened, and somebody's parent would be like, well, you guys, perspective. There's no parent driving home on our show.
It would be Karen and Keith, but, you know, they're all busy getting all engaged.
They're making
They're
out.
kissing, being cute.
You were so cute in that scene, Sophia, jumping up and down and squealing and like wrapping them up in your arms. Can I make your wedding dress? I'm 16 years old.
Please, 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 please. I remember that. I remember how fun that was. I have a visceral sense memory here of hugging you and Moira Hill, just like, and it was so fun. I just remember that whole episode being so fun. And even for you and I, like you hosting and us being off to the side of the trick stage all night, I remember that.
Dude, we had a little water bottle full of vodka and we treated it like it was a real club night hanging out on the side of the stage.
It wasn't real sun-kissed?
What are you talking about? Oh, man, sun-kissed so wherever fun. You are. Thank you for paying our bills. Thank you for funding our show.
That's right.
Well, I think Sunkissed traveled all the bands out because that was expensive.
They did.
Also, Jack's Mannequin, speaking of the bands, still hits.
Yes.
Do you remember how excited we were that they were
dark
going?
blue song can get it.
Forever.
So good.
Forever.
It's such a good album.
So cool.
And it was so important to have an artist there that backed up with the charity work of the show was. All of the cancer research that we were fictionally and also realistically trying to support. I really liked hanging out with those guys. And we were like in a bubble. So I was still really nervous that we had these cool kids coming to visit.
Yeah, same. Because we weren't working in LA or New York where every weekend you go to a show or you meet somebody from this or that. Like, it was just us. It was the 9 of us and our crew and like the college kids in town. And so when a band that we loved would come to visit, like, it's probably still why I don't know how to be cool in rooms full of people I like. I'm just like, oh, wow, you made this. And everyone's like, please stop. Like, stop. You have to stop.
Tone it down.
But I just remember we were so geeked and truly, like, for me, this was also around a stage where I was beginning to work for nonprofits and really find my voice, like my early voice as an advocate. I started working on my first political campaigns in 2007. This was 2006.
Yeah.
Andrew was such an inspiration to me.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, whoa, you've used your art and like who you are as a human to advocate for this thing that's important to you. Like, you're allowed to do that? Everybody tells me I'm supposed to keep my mouth shut about politics and about causes. Like, what do you mean?
Just stand there and take your shirt off, kid.
Yeah. Just stand there and look cute and write a check to your charity. I was like, no. And he really kind of was an early inspiration for a different way to advocate to me. And yeah, it's funny. I haven't thought about that in a really long time, but it's kind of it's all coming back to me now.
We need to hang out with that dude again.
It's
all coming back. It's all coming
Those days were long.
Dude. We're long.
Because it was all, I mean, how many bands? There were three songs?
3 bands, and you have to shoot it from 27
and then
angles.
my song.
Jack's Mannequin and Fall Out Boy and you.
So 3 songs.
Your song was so good, Joy. Like,
oh, thanks. It's a good song. Yeah, that's fans.
I love
it's
it.
like the number 1 requested song from
It
fans.
is?
You in this red dress with your long hair. I liked all of it so much.
I did too.
I love you guys for saying that. I was saying while we were watching it, it's so cringy to me. It's like watching a musical theater kid try and do rock and roll, but it's just cringy and not working. I don't know.
Wrong.
But whatever.
Wrong.
I loved it. It like, I also loved you like putting that little gravel in your voice. And I don't know, man, it just gave me vibes. I don't know
The
if
song
this
itself is great. It's more just the stage performance. It's like I hadn't quite figured out I didn't have like a stage presence.
Well,
I didn't know what I wanted to put out there.
Yeah, it's not like they got you like a choreographer, Joy.
Nobody was crafting anything. It was like, just go stand up there and like, move around. I'm like, okay, this could be so much cooler.
But so here's
cool.
the thing that probably affected me most in this episode is the speech that Haley gives Nathan, where she says, I am afraid to love it again, and I'm afraid for you to see me love it.
Yes.
Because I have felt that in my life where it's like, I got to tamp down my excitement because I don't want to threaten anybody.
Yeah.
And it's such a specifically female thing, if you're an ambitious female, to feel like you have to. Our normal gender roles are like, oh no, I'm going to be the caretaker. I will handle the homestead, if you will. This idea that Haley is vocalizing, I'm afraid for you to see me love it, is, I loved it. You did such a good job with that.
Thank you. I think that's true. It is scary.
It is. And they really have gotten so good at this point in writing for you and James.
Mm-hmm.
They've dialed in Nathan and Haley in a way. You guys get to volley. The dialogue is really good. It's really connected. It's well thought out. You get to play inside of it because it's good. You're not trying to force the material to make sense. It does. And so when you get vulnerable with him in that way, and all of us goes, oof, we felt that. When he then comes back and says, I'm scared. I'm scared to be vulnerable with you. And you realize that these two people they're going through the same experience. They're just each on a different end, of a distance looking at each other across it. Oh, it was just so nice. I thought they did a beautiful job giving you guys the space across scenes to really make that conversation so impactful.
Yeah, I like that they took the time to really bring them back together and draw that out. It's fun. I haven't seen that a lot in TV, I guess, where a couple gets together almost right away, but then they actually have to spend the majority of the time trying to find their way back to each other after it's like a fast get together and then a fast fall apart, and then the long stretch of time to find their way back to each other, which is how it happens sometimes. I think that's really interesting.
What was that show? Divorce? No, what was that show? The Girlfriend's Guide to Divorce.
Oh, yeah.
Doesn't she hook up with her ex-husband on that show? Which is so much more taboo than hooking up with like a new guy, The idea that Nathan is your husband, but also like your ex, because you guys did kind of break up a little bit.
It's true. It's true.
Yeah.
I liked, I'm glad that they brought back the two little boys, the young Dan and Keith, because when it first showed up a couple episodes ago, it felt so strange. It was like, why are we doing a flashback with these two kids? And I see now that they're trying to thread a device for the next little while. So I don't know. I'm just glad that they tied it in with something that wasn't just totally random.
Yeah.
Nice to see that happen. But a lot of build up there with Dan and Keith.
Interesting too to see how they brought in the storyline that Dan was the one that got bullied pretty consistently as a kid, and Keith came to his rescue, and Dan grew up to be a bully.
Yeah,
and while you're watching this man, who's 40 or however old he is, deal with what happened to him as a kid, you see a teenager dealing with the ways he has felt bullied or ostracized. And it's an interesting device they're using to kind of show you the ways that what we go through as kids, to your point earlier, Hill, the humiliation, whether it's real or perceived, by the way.
Yeah.
How it affects us, because Lucas and Mouth make that great point to Jimmy, like, dude, we're sorry, but you didn't call us either.
Yeah.
You kind of dropped off too. And it's that question that we ask, how much of a responsibility do kids have to like pull others with them? And how much of a responsibility do kids have to figure out how to overcome their obstacles? Whose responsibility is it? And it's interesting to see all of these ways that it can turn out represented by these characters.
Well, moral of the story is if you are in high school or middle school, I'm not sure you should be listening to our podcast because it's kind of raunchy sometimes. But if you are...
They should play that disclaimer before every episode. Yes. And you said it in such a lovely velvet tone, Joy. Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, there are a lot of F-bombs dropped in this particular episode.
Sorry,
Enter
kids.
at your own risk.
But if you are, and you see somebody who's sitting alone at lunch or they seem like an outcast, go be a friend to them. Let go of whatever your social priority is for the day and just make an effort on occasion or, as often as feels natural to you to go and befriend someone who looks like they need it. And if you're a grown up like us and you have children, teach that to your children. And if you don't have children, then and even if you do have children, you should be doing it yourself and leading by example.
All solid.
It's about to be like, if you have kids, you're off the hook.
Kids. The thing with kids is you got to ask specific questions. Don't ask them if they're fine. Be like, what's going on with Susie? What's going on with Todd? What's going on with Sophie? You got to be specific at pickup. Drive your kids everywhere and be specific as possible. All right. What do we got? We got questions?
I like it when people are specific with me.
Yeah.
By the way, just as a little asterisk on that.
Specificity is how you show love.
It is a love language. You know what's also a love language for us? When y'all send us cute questions. We like them.
I don't know how I feel about this question.
What is it?
Sasha.
Oh, it's for you.
Okay, yeah, it's from Sasha. She says, was the Peyton and Pete Wentz storyline your idea, Hilarie? And if it wasn't, were you majorly surprised it became a thing?
You guys, Okay, look, if we were going to be able to request what singers we were going to get to make out with on our show, we would have had way more power.
You also would have requested like Pat Benatar.
Yeah, I would.
Yeah.
To be clear.
To be clear. Yeah, I mean, look, I like Pete. He's a sweet dude.
He's lovely.
Yeah, at the time, he was with a buddy of mine. I had worked at MTV with Ashley Simpson and was obsessed with her. She's so fun. She's like the nicest girl. I really liked hanging out with her. And so when they were like, oh, her boyfriend's going to come on and you're going to kiss him, to be perfectly honest, I was weird about it because I was like, is she coming? Like, I probably would have been more comfortable kissing her. So, no, it wasn't my idea, but we had a good time. And Pete was very respectful, you know? Like, the last time we talked about Pete, and I was like, yeah, this storyline's inappropriate. When the news outlets pick up our stories from the podcast and then
so
just
annoying.
run a headline, I'm like, guys, you got to give context.
Also, you weren't saying he was inappropriate. Like, we never said that. It's so annoying. We
But he's
like Pete. He's a
playing
good
an
dude.
adult, kissing a high
Yes.
schooler.
Yeah.
Not so great right now, that storyline. But Pete Wentz was a doll and so respectful, never crossed a line. Good dude.
You know who I loved seeing Pete bond with?
Who?
JoJo.
Yes,
Oh, yeah.
she washed his
Oh, yeah.
hair.
She washed his hair for him one day, and he was just like in that bowl getting his head massaged. And I was like, this cute, whatever this is over here in the corner, like I can't. It was precious.
Auntie JoJo.
Well, because
The
she always
best.
hung out with bands in Atlanta when she was in her 20s and bartending. And so she
Oh,
just
that's
right. And so she just get right down into bar talk and like band talk. And he was like, oh, okay. Ask him about amps and shit.
Yeah,
Sure.
it was great.
All right.
awesome.
Lenny wants to know, there are so many iconic love quotes in OTH. If you were writing wedding vows, what would be a quote that you would use?
Ooh.
No pressure.
Quote from our
you know
show.
what? This isn't an iconic love quote, but I do really love the quote at the end of this episode from Whitey saying that the journey is the destination. That seems very applicable to a wedding vow.
Yeah,
That makes
yeah,
sense.
because that's a whole life. You know, you're embarking on a journey. You don't want to get to the end of it.
Yeah.
Is it cryptic if I say that quote from Ellie? Every song ends. But is that any reason not to enjoy the music? What a twisted thing to say. Can you imagine being at a wedding if someone used that? You would be like, what?
Oh my God, like at a toast. That's the drunk cousin toast. Every song ends. There's no reason not to take the journey.
Yep. Oh my God. I hope someone uses that. God bless you guys. These were good
That
questions.
is cute. I will say it was. I will always be nostalgic about the fact that, like, when we were prepping our whole ceremony and working with our officiant, like, you know, there's a reality that your story is being told, and I was just like, I'm pretty excited I get to talk about my friends and our story. So like when Lori was giving our overviews about like Grant's life and my life, and like the mention of y'all came up, I'll never forget like standing at the altar, but then looking over my shoulder at the two of you, and we just did our little eye thing, and I was like, this is iconic.
I'm pretty sure
Like,
we fist pumped at your wedding ceremony. We're like,
100%. But also, like, Joy and I put in season 8 when we did the Brooke and Julian wedding, like, you and I at the speech did this little like pointy thing.
Fingers to the eyes thing. Yeah.
That thing that everyone's like, was
I'm
that
watching
scripted?
you.
And I'm like, no, that was just me and Joy. And so when I turned back at you guys and we were all just pointing at each other, I was like, oh my God, it's real. It's real.
that was really
We
fun.
totally sat on the wrong side, by the way. We were supposed to. Well, I always thought it was the opposite side. So we walked down the aisle and we were like, wait, no, I think we have to go on the right. We should sit on the right. And then we sat on the right. And then your back was to us. I was like, dang
Listen,
it.
I was looking at the dress. I love you so much. I was looking at the dress the whole time. I was on the right side.
That's what's always so funny to me. And we realized it when we got up there. Like, we put our parents on opposite sides because I was like, his parents should be able to see his face. My parents should be able to see my face. But we didn't think about, like, for the hubbub that it was of, like, how are we going to get Grandma Ethel in her seat? And how will my mom know where to go? And then, like, we're up there And luckily, his best friends have become my best friends, but I'm standing there doing my vows, just looking at his whole bridal party and realizing that all of my bridal parties staring at my back. Yeah. You guys are staring at my back. I was like, we didn't plan enough of this.
I was
but
into it.
It was perfect. I loved it.
You know what I liked seeing? I liked being able to look at his face and see how in love he was with you. And that's what the friends are there for, really, is to make sure this guy's going to do what he's supposed to do as your husband. And you could tell every inch of it in his face. He's so in love with you.
I love that. I do that too. Like I remember, even at your wedding, Hill, like the minute I saw you, I was like, I need to look in Jeffrey's eyes right now. Like,
yes.
He was like holding George and like he was like handling children. He was wrangling.
It was so sweet because he was like holding a baby and like weeping. And I was like,
weeping. Yeah, let's make no mistake.
It's exactly what should be happening right now.
Boys.
Cuties.
I love them.
Well, thanks everybody. We're going to spin a wheel here and get you on your way.
What do we got today?
Most likely to.
Oh,
Go,
man.
Hillary.
What's it gonna be? Most likely to completely lose it on a roller coaster. That's so weird. I realized yesterday my son's never been on a roller coaster, and I was showing him videos of Busch Gardens Williamsburg because that was the theme park we went to growing up. And he was like, Mom, I have to go on these roller coasters. So I feel like in the next month or two, we're about to make some poor choices.
Oh, boy.
I want to come.
So it's Gus in real life then?
Yeah, he's so pumped. But he's not going to lose it. He's pretty even Steven.
Okay.
Who would lose it? Who's a hysterical person?
Who would lose it?
I would I don't know about lose it, but the person who's like, no, commentary, I would like to hear on a roller coaster is Antoine.
Jinx.
I want that so bad.
Yeah.
Because the best part about Antoine is that he talks a very big game. And then it's just like, hold up, but we don't actually want to do this, right? He would like get us to go to bars with him and be like, we're going to stay out till 4 a.m. And then at like 12:30, he'd be like, so we're good, right? Like we did it.
Yeah.
We can go home now.
We did it. I think it's Antoine. I think it's skills in the show and it's Antoine in real life.
Mm-hmm. You know what I will say as a follow-up to this that I love? If y'all have not gone down the rabbit hole of the videos of people passing out on roller coasters, do yourself a favor. Jenny sent me down some TikTok rabbit hole of this. And people who get launched in those things and they're screaming and then they faint.
Nope.
And they come to and they're screaming and then they faint. It is the funniest. If you are having a bad day, just look up people fainting on roller coasters. It's chef's kiss.
This is how everyone can spend the rest of their week until our next episode drops.
We got
This
you.
is great. You've just given me something for Maria to do next time she's bored. Yeah. Good luck, everybody.
All right. We love you
Done.
guys. We'll see you next week.
See you next week. Hey, thanks for listening.
Don't forget to leave us a review. You can also follow us on Instagram at DramaQueensOTH.
Or email us at dramaqueens@iHeartRadio.com. See you next time.
We're all about that high school drama girl, all about them high school queens. We'll take you for a ride in our comic girl, cheering for the right team. Drama queens, smart girl, rough girl, fashion but you're tough girl. You could sit with us, girl. Drama queens, drama queens, drama queens, drama queens, drama queens.